she would repost them with all this like nasty, accusations, lies, rhetoric about me.
We have a long fight ahead of us.
Here I am.
Here I am.
Here I am.
And here I am. Here I am.
And here I am.
And here I am with Shai Davidai.
My guest for today is an artist whose work can be seen in many places, including the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the National Portrait Gallery in London, the Jewish Museum in New York City, and the Rose Museum at Brandeis University.
Yes.
And full disclosure, the Rose Museum is run by my wife's aunt, Ganit.
Ganit is oh my goodness,
Yeah.
she's amazing.
I know.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So
I love to hear that.
And I am really excited to have a conversation about art, about feminism, about being Jewish in a progressive world. And here I am with Zoe Buckman.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. And for people not watching, I just want to give like a sense of the layout here. Zoe immediately came grabbed her chair, took off her shoes, and sat up on the chair, which I really, really love. That's what I would do if I were the guest. So thank you for making me feel at home.
Thank you for humoring me.
Zoe, I'm going to start with the question I start every time. Zoe Buckman, what kind of a Jew are you?
I am that kind of a Jew that is very proud and whose Jewishness is very dear to her, but really doesn't know shit about the tradition, but considers herself in the role of student, even like with my Jewishness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but why are you proud if you don't know shit?
I don't know shit about our religious history. I'm starting to learn more about that. I'm starting to learn more about our geographical history and parts of our very long and complicated history. But what makes me proudly Jewish is that I feel that I do have a firm relationship with like the qualities of Jewishness, and those being, more like moralistic qualities. Aspects.
And growing up in East London, were you always proud of being Jewish? Was it always a part of your identity?
I wasn't always proud of it. It was always part of my identity, but I had a complicated relationship with it and to it. I feel like as a small kid, I was aware of my Jewishness, and I was aware that it existed on the weekends, really, like when I was taken to my grandparents' house, and then there was all the aunties and the uncles, the great aunties and uncles, and I was, at home in that environment. But then during the rest of the week, me and my brothers, we were the only Jews in our school. And so I was aware of our otherness. And then at times, I think as I got older and I started to really witness jokes at the expense of Jews, I would struggle with like wanting to be like everyone else, and thus even like kind of joining in and making jokes at my own expense, right? Like, yeah, we are really tight people, which we're not, and it absolutely wasn't my experience of being Jewish. So it's something that's really evolved and gone up and down and whatnot. When I was a young woman, I wore like a small Magen David, little Star of David at work, and I was a cocktail waitress in London nightclubs for like 5 years. And I remember at that point feeling like, oh, this is actually a marker of something that makes me unsafe in this environment, depending on who I was serving, right?
When was this?
This was, sorry, when or where?
When?
So this was, cast my memory back into ancient history. I guess it was like 2003 to 2007.
So even back then, wearing like you said, a small Star of David was already, you felt was not the safest option?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Because whenever there would be violence popping off in Israel, as a nightclub, as an environment, it was actually very segregated, but there were lots of different people and ethnicities represented in their groups, right? So there would be like a table of Jews, a table of Muslims, a table of white aristocrats kind of thing. And so on any given night, I was aware that I'm serving people who may not necessarily appreciate it. And then I have to then make a decision. Am I going to tuck it in or am I going to wear it proudly? And so I maintain that decision to just be like, this is who I am.
And we should say, right before we started rolling the cameras,
yes,
you said, "Hey, would people know that I'm Jewish?" And you took out your Star of David and your other necklaces.
Yes, I was making a joke as like a kind of a dick measuring contest between me and you because you're wearing a giant one.
A Star of
and
David.
I'm like, oh no, am I performing enough? Am I performing my Jewishness enough?
It's
right
a Star
now?
of David pissing contest, and
yeah, exactly.
Everybody loses. No, it's great. And
no, you really lose if you get a black eye.
That's true. Well, I think everybody wins. So actually, if you wear your identity out. So you grew up kind of knowing about your Jewishness, a bit conflicted about it. Was there any specific inflection point where you were like, no, I'm going to start learning. I am proud of who I am. I want to lean in? Or was it a gradual shift?
It was sort of up and down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember around the time that one would typically have a bar or bat mitzvah, asking my mother, like, hey, I think I'd like to lean more into this and I'd like to have one. And she was like, oh, absolutely not. We don't have time for that. And you just want it for the presents. And I was like, yeah, fair. Then I discovered weed and I cared less about everything. And then, there's been other times in my life where it's kind of been more at the forefront. But for sure, so my mum passed 6 years ago. And I feel like when I lost her, I felt this sudden like deficit of like Jewishness in my life, and so that was a moment for me where I was like, I need it. I'm lacking it, and I want to like fill myself up with that energy. And so definitely made a real concerted effort at that point to seek out Jewish spaces and people, which led me to my whole unlearning process.
So we'll get to unlearning, but where did you seek that out for people that might be in that position you were in 6 years ago?
Yeah, well, what I started there were a few different things going on at the same time for me. I also had this moment of, I guess, being confronted by how much anti-Semitism, anti-Semitic hate, especially in America, especially on college campuses, was ramping up, which I know you know a bunch about.
I've heard a few things.
Obviously. But yeah, I think reckoning with that and then starting to speak out against and about that, and then at the same time leaning more into like going to Shabbats and like deepening friendships with Jewish friends of mine. Sort of everything was kind of coming together in that speaking out online about anti-Semitism, which I only did like maybe once a month. I would like post these roundups of here's what happened in America, anti-Semitic hate, boom, 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 boom. Through that, I then started to see, who else was online educating about anti-Semitism. And then like reading and taking in that knowledge led me to kind of go, oh my God, like there's so much that I have not been aware of. And so much of what I was taught and told that is actually not accurate and is very one-sided and biased. And
you're now studying to do your Bat Mitzvah.
Yes.
Which your mom said there's no time.
Yeah.
So now you have the time.
Yes.
You're likely not going to get as many presents as you would have if you were 12.
I don't think I'm going to get any presents, but the whole thing is a present.
What? Oh yeah, we got to keep this straight. We got to keep this straight.
Sorry, yes, keep it straight.
So what's this decision to get a Bat Mitzvah not at your age as an adult?
It's an attention-seeking tactic. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm turning 40 in September, and I, again, just through like leaning more into the traditions, I have this experience. I go to Shabbat or a Hanukkah party or a Passover dinner, and I'm like, man, I want to know more about this. I want to know the lyrics to these songs. I want to say these prayers and really like learn with someone and have the opportunity to kind of be in that discourse. And I interrogate my rabbi. She's awesome. And I get to like sit with her one-on-one and ask her, well, why do we do that? Why do we say that? Why do we cover our eyes? What did Moses mean when he said this thing? So then it kind of made sense. Or I was like, well, hang on a second. I'm quite a sentimental person as an artist, and I really enjoy ritual, and the idea of doing a formal initiation felt just really yummy to me. So I'm doing it on my 40th birthday, and you're invited. Please come.
And everybody that's listening or watching will show up to your Bat Mitzvah and encourage
Everyone is welcome. Elijah too.
So we'll talk more about your Jewish identity, or you're leaning into your Jewishness. But we also, to understand who you are, we need to understand your art and your identity as an artist.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about your art. What kind of art do you do? What's your medium? What do you try to portray? Yeah,
so I've always really been telling stories about the female experience, always starting from an autobiographical place. So my first solo show here in New York was very much about motherhood and mortality and birth and these things. And then, over the years, going through some pretty difficult experiences, I've come to look at gender-based violence, body autonomy, so like, abortion, miscarriage, these things, patriarchy and misogyny, and then more recently, in recent years, the kind of female Jewish experience, really looking at the home. And so I'm multidisciplinary. I use a lot of different disciplines and mediums, but mainly textiles. I use a lot of embroidery. I also use text literally in my work as well. But yeah, I guess I've long been in this space in the art world of kind of art as what they call social justice, which is like, it's a difficult term because I don't think that as artists, we should necessarily get into our head that we're changing anything. I think it's like really important to understand, like we make art. Do you know what I mean? Like that's really what we do. But I've been more in that space,
And there was an article that described your work. I thought it was a great play of words. Because it was describing your embroidery, Zoe Buckman, Needling the Patriarchy.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a bit of a combative kind of way. So is your art antagonistic in any way? Is it combative in any way? Or what are you trying to achieve with it?
Yeah, I think that I am trying to... I think I do naturally want to disrupt problematic systems. I am trying to confront and pose, I think, necessary and important questions. But I've always tried to do that in a way that like employs like softness as well. Like I'm trying to draw people in to have those uncomfortable conversations. Because a lot of people, I think when they're like more politically motivated and driven with their artwork, they'll make like overtly combative or what I call shouty art. And I actually quite enjoy to behold shouty art. I think sometimes you're like, oh yeah, that's great. I don't feel that I make shouty artwork myself, but for sure, there is an aspect of it that is combative, I think.
Because a lot of people that would be listening or watching this episode would associate the feminist art that goes against the patriarchy, against the system, as and wrongly associate as linked with the same kind of movements that are now going against the Jews.
Yes.
How do you feel when you see prominent feminist voices, feminist organizations taking the side of the ones going after the Jews rather than the ones supporting the Jews?
Yeah, it's completely blown my mind, the levels of hypocrisy, and I feel very stateless in the art world. Like there's so many rooms that I don't want to walk in anymore, and communities and like circles and scenes and spaces that like they were my family. Do you know what I mean? Like over 10 years showing my art in New York, I was part of these groups, and many of them women, right? And so then to experience not just like them completely turning the other cheek to Jewish suffering or trauma, but those who have like gone that step further to like gaslight, accuse, to spread hate, to bully Jews, to bully me personally, like it's been really, really fucking hard.
So what's going on? Like for people that may only know of contemporary art from museums and galleries, or people that might not even know, they just hear about it. What's going on in the art world in New York City and elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite treacherous, to be honest with you. I think like one of the problems is that actually like most Jewish artists are scared to speak out in any way about their Jewishness, even just like demonstrating Jewish pride. Like you're not seeing it really, let alone like advocating for the hostages or even advocating for coexistence. Like most Jewish artists don't say boo. And then those that do will find like, you know, your show's been cancelled, your residency's come to an end, that you were on track to get this grant, it's been pulled. Like so many of us, and really it's really hard for Israeli artists, really, really hard for Israeli artists.
What is the explanation that is given?
It's usually like some kind of bullshit explanation that's a clear lie, like I'm so sorry, we're not going to be able to fulfill our commitment to doing this show because we have a problem with the plumbing or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
Wow.
Or sometimes Jews and Israelis in the art world are being told things like, oh, hey, you know what, we just don't feel at this moment that we're able to, they do this kind of gaslighting thing where they make you think that it's for you, like as in like, we don't feel that we would be able to hold this conversation that you deserve. We are actually not really equipped to couch this conversation. People are like, what are you talking about this conversation? Because I am Jewish, because I am Israeli. Like
right. It's the progressive way of saying, I don't like you, but I don't like saying that I don't like you.
Yes. So for example, I was told by my former gallery, they decided to cancel what was going to be my next solo show that was supposed to happen this year. And they told me that they didn't want to do it because they were like, well, you know, you've just been so brave and we'd really hate for you to experience hostility in London. So we're just gonna wait until a time where, you know, things have like died down in London and, you know, London is less anti-Semitic. So I'm like, cool, so like I'm never having a show then.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
What kind of hostility would you get were they to run your show?
Well, first of all, that is like, who knows, right? Like I believe that you take a risk. I believe also that all great art has ruffled feathers in its time, right? And I think it's your job as a gallery to stand behind the artist. Now, let's also recognize that this is not art that's about the conflict. It's not art that's about the war. It's not art that's about October 7th. This is art that's about my Jewish community, my friends and my family. It's mainly portraits of my friends and family in their homes. So it's like, if you can't stand behind me for that show, like what business do you have being a gallery? Do you know what I mean?
That is, I didn't realize that the art in question was have nothing to do with Israel. It was
nothing.
Just about Jewishness. How do they even know it's Jewish art?
Well, they know me, and they know, the sort of space that I've been taken up in the art world as someone who is consistently speaking out about anti-Semitism, like consistently for years. And so, yeah, they know that these are portraits of my Jewish friends and family. 1 or 2 pieces I'm using Hebrew text in it, like small bits of Hebrew, but again, like just song lyrics, Is
this happening to any other groups in the arts?
No, it's absolutely not. It's absolutely not.
So what do aspiring young artists, what can they do about this?
I think that visibility is really important, and I think like now's the time to go further, stand firmer, stand prouder. Like if you want to make that work, there's some kind of exploration of your Jewishness, or just do it, because I think that eventually, like, the art world is, it can't censor all of us, and it can't censor all of us forever. Like,
at the same time,
yes.
I'm sure some of the comments will be, well, Zoe Buckman already succeeded. She already has her National Portrait Gallery, work. She has work in many like amazing museums. She can afford to be, openly Jewish, but I just starting, maybe I should hide my Jewishness until I make it. If I make it.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone can come with a reason not to kind of, stand up in this moment. I think that, one key part of this is that actually there are curators, there are collectors, and there are gallerists who want to be engaging with this kind of work as well. So it's like, I think that Jewish artists will find the audience that they deserve to. So I think you might as well just authentically be you, right? Because it's not about looking back. I think as any creative person, or whatever one does, it's not about looking back at your life and your career and being like, I didn't do actually what I felt I wanted. I had a burning desire to make this kind of work and I didn't make it, or to say this thing and I didn't say it.
Mm. So we've talked about your work being feminist.
Yes.
What makes your art Jewish, other than the fact that you are Jewish and many of your the people that you make portraits of are Jewish? Yeah,
right now, for sure, my work is definitely more about the Jewish experience, and I think our people's complicated and vulnerable relationship to the idea of the home, because obviously the wandering Jew is a thing. And for me, as a Brit, I think on both sides of my family, there's come that moment where my ancestors, my relatives, and even myself have questioned, like, am I safe here? Do I belong here? Do they even like me here? Like, it's pretty shit living somewhere where you think, I don't think they like me here. So I'm really looking at that. I'm looking a lot at the moment of the history of sexual assault and rape within generations of Jewish women, and also the denialism of that, which we've seen just explode since October 7th, obviously. Previous to this particular series that I'm working on right now, I feel like my Jewishness has been something that's kind of, you would have to look for it to know it's there, in that it could be a Yiddish title to a piece. Like the Baltimore Museum of Art many years ago bought a sculpture of mine, and it was called Kenahora, which I'm sure you pronounce slightly differently.
Can you say that again?
Kenahora.
What is it supposed to?
It's no evil eye. It's Yiddish.
Oh, I don't know Yiddish.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So you're not that kind of Jew.
I'm not that kind of Jew.
So my mum used to say it, and my grandmother used to say it. Like, oh, she's a big gal, Kenahora kind of thing. She's a good gal, Kenahora. So it was just sort of like woven into some of my pieces in more subtle ways.
And you recently had a piece acquired by the Jewish Museum in New York City for its permanent collection, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that piece. And by the way, if people haven't seen the piece, you can go see it online. It's yeah. Tell about the piece.
Mate.
You describe it and then.
So that is it's a portrait of one of my best friends. Her name's Katie, and I took a picture of her drinking coffee, sat at this little like breakfast table, and she's only wearing like what we call pants, but of course, no, you guys call, we call pants in England, but you guys, I'm saying Americans call underpants.
Okay.
Panties,
underpants.
Panties. She's not wearing trousers.
Yeah. Which nobody
And a
says
t-shirt.
trousers here. We have to establish the language here for this podcast, right? We're in the United States.
We are in the United States. We're in New Jersey.
She's wearing underpants.
Yeah, she's wearing underpants and a t-shirt, and she's drinking coffee, and she's looking direct at the viewer. And there's something so powerful about her and her posture, and also like vulnerable, and I think like real. And so I painted it up on a large vintage tablecloth that has this kind of like crocheted edge to it, and then I did a whole bunch of embroidery on it. So it's essentially it's a large portrait of my girl.
And why was this specific piece bought by the Jewish Museum? How does it fit in their collection in your mind?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know what attracted the curator to this particular piece. I think they felt like it fit into my practice. You know, it's a depiction of a woman. It's intimate. It's got that strength. It's also like very representative of the work that I make, like just formally as well as I guess thematically. And then this is part of this series that I'm making of like my Jewish community in the home. Yeah.
Why in the home? It's an observation I may have made already in the podcast, but there's no Hebrew word for home. The word home is only conjugated with like to going to home or from home. So we say habaita is going to home. Mehabait means going from home, but there's no being at home.
That's so
It's
interesting.
Like, ani babait is I'm in the house.
Why do you think that is?
I think we've been a people in transition. We're always being kicked out of home and wanting to come back home. And we don't get comfortable too much at home. Yeah. So I'm interested why Jewish life happens in synagogues, happens in out in the open, now not so much, but why Jewish life at home?
I think for me, that's really beautiful. I didn't know that about the language and the verbiage, but it makes sense to me when I think about what I'm trying to say with this work, in that like, that's exactly it. If there's not a word for it, it's because that is how complicated and vulnerable it is. Like, I'm constantly reading people tell me, non-Jewish people tell me online where I'm from, where my home is, where my home isn't, where I deserve to be, where I should be, right? So I'm like, this obsession with who we are and where we came from is very much something that's out there. Then when I think about my own relationship to my Jewishness, that's really something that has been galvanized within the home, both my home growing up and my grandparents' home. It wasn't something that for me existed in synagogue or out on the streets or in school or in my circles of friends. And then I think the home, just separate to Jewishness, I think the home is, I guess, like an area that I've always been fascinated with and a terrain for expression, because it's where there's so much trauma and there's so much joy. I think like if you think about arguments and fights and tears and confessions, love, sex, your children, feeding, all of these things, like so much of this happens within the home. And so it is like a very formative place for these huge events, but they're also so mundane, right? Because they're so everyday and they're so everyone.
So what is your home like?
Now.
And the home you're building for yourself and your child.
Yeah.
You have a 13-year-old.
Yeah. My home, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you. I think, you know, I live in Brooklyn where I don't have any family. All my family is in England, right? My ex-husband, who's one of my best friends in the whole wide world, he's in the city, and our kid spends half the time with me and then half the time with him. I feel like I've really cultivated a sense of family and community within my best friends. And that has actually come into even sharper view for me since October 7th because of being ostracized and cut off from so many people, especially my best friends in London who don't speak to me anymore. And didn't speak, like I haven't heard from since October 7th. And these were best friends of mine, like best. So that has even more made me lean further into like your chosen family. And so my home is a place where like I like to host, I like to be a mother to many. So people come over and I like that. Then I kick them out.
I want to talk about your friends or the people you thought you were friends,
yes.
if that's okay.
Of course, absolutely, anything.
Because a lot of times when we talk about things like Jew hatred in the art world, Jew hatred in the publishing world, it becomes very vague and abstract, as if the art world, the publishing world, academia, medicine, as if those are entities that are devoid of humanity. But in fact, these are just people.
Yeah.
And those people used to be your friends. What happened? What was your relationship on October 6th? What did your relationship become on October 7th?
So one of them, we were absolutely in touch on October 6th. She was going to come and stay with me. In October, we were just figuring out what exact weekend. She made me the godmother of her daughter. She was one of my best mates. And she was going to come hang out and we were going to be together, and I just never heard from her ever again. And I was told that she unfollowed me on Instagram, and then I checked and I saw that she had, and that was that. And people were like, but did you reach out to her? And I'm like, I'm a Jewish woman who was dealing with people that I know who had lost relatives and friends, people I know whose family were taken hostage. Suddenly there's this explosion of anti-Semitism in New York, in Brooklyn. I don't feel safe. I live alone with my kid half the time. She knows all of these things. She's not Jewish. She's in London with her 3 white non-Jewish children and her white non-Jewish English husband. And she then decides in that moment not to reach out, not to be like, babe, are you okay? Look, I don't really like some of what you've been posting, so I'm just going to step away from the politics of it all, but are you okay? I love you. There was none of that. She just unfollowed me and I never heard from her again. And again, this was someone whose child was my goddaughter. So she was like a sister.
Still is.
Yeah. Still is.
What do you think happened? I mean, I assume you know this person inside and out.
Yeah, I think she is disgusted by me, and I think that our other 2 friends, we had a little crew of, these are like 20-year friendships. All 3 of them unfollowed me at the same time, and I think it must be just a pure level of disgust that I dared to call out this terrorist attack, this atrocity.
Did you do it in a disgusting manner?
No, in fact, and anyone's welcome to go back and check what I posted on October 7th. It was multiple of slides. The first one said, murdering Jewish people is not fighting for human rights. And then the last one said, my prayers for the people, the safety and peace of the people of Palestine and the safety and peace of the people of Israel. Something to that effect. So from day one, it was just like, this is wrong.
Why is that objectionable? I'm sorry. You're being nice. My job is to be less nice than you. Why is that so objectionable?
It's, you and I know it's not objectionable. So you and I, for you to turn against your own sister and hate and ostracize your sister in that moment, from what I've just told you I posted, really points to a very real, entrenched intolerance, a hatred towards us. That's the only explanation.
But your friend knew you were Jewish for more than 20 years.
Yes. And then this event happened which forced, or in which people were peer pressured into taking a side. And apparently I didn't take the side in the verbiage that they wish that I had, that was acceptable to them to continue a friendship.
In the 20 years
I'll go antisemitism.
I'm trying to figure out, honestly, my wife went through the same process with some of her friends.
Yeah, I bet.
I went through a similar process with some friends that weren't really close friends, but people that really shocked me. And I'm trying to understand really deeply, how did we get to this point? Mm-hmm. It's easy to dismiss everyone as, oh, haters gonna hate. But how do we get to a point where people that you know and love and care, and I assume on October 6, 2023, knew and loved and cared about you, almost like turning on a dime, something happened. What is that thing?
I think that in order to understand it, we have to look back at the past. And I think the most recent huge event that speaks to this, like this groupthink, collective unconscious of people turning on a dime against the Jewish people, is the Holocaust, right? And I think if you look back at that and you consider the fact that so many people were just given permission in that moment to hate Jews, and they did, then you're like, well, how were we so naive that we thought that wasn't going to happen again? You know, I feel like I have been so naive my whole life.
I may be too compassionate here, but I think your friends were also naive. They didn't think it could happen to them.
Yes.
That they weren't aware of this even tiny seed of hatred that someone else may have inserted in them and was activated. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that to this day, they probably feel very justified in abandoning their mate Zoe in that moment. Do you know what I mean? Because I think when you're so committed to your position that you've invested that much into it, and I think especially for one of them, from what I hear, has like pinned so much of her identity since October 7th on what she deems to be like her advocacy, that like she's so committed to that. So for her to actually take a look at herself and be like, shit, am I an anti-Semite? She's not going to do that. She's not going to do it.
Is there anything, if at all, that could mend those relationships?
Look, with all like my Vedic Hindu philosophy and Jewish philosophy, so much of it, there is this tenet of forgiveness and tolerance and whatnot. So I would never say never, but in my logical, practical brain that is no longer naive, I'm like, why would you ever give these people your love, your time, like your vulnerability? Like we all deserve to be safe in our families, in our friendships, right? Doesn't mean we shouldn't challenge each other. Absolutely we should. We should have uncomfortable conversations and whatnot. But ultimately there has to be this level of like, my friends don't hate me for my Jewishness. You know what I mean? And from what they've demonstrated, I can't see repair. But things are possible. People sit down with people with far bigger rifts than me and these women and arrive at forgiveness.
I think for me, and one thing that my wife and I, we've noticed is what we thought were unconditional friendships turned out to be conditional friendships. And the moment a friendship is conditional, it's very, very hard to go back to the thinking of unconditional.
Right.
In the same way that when a partner cheats on you, it's harder to go back to the 100% trust.
Yes.
It's not impossible, but it requires a lot of work, and especially from the side that erred,
Right.
the side that showed the conditionality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are friendships lost.
Yes.
You've also had interesting experiences with I wouldn't say friends, I would say anti-Semitic bigoted haters.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Candace Owens and what happened?
Oh, Candace Owens. So she, God, I can't remember the exact post. So she had posted something.
Who is she? Just for people who don't know.
Oh, she's an asshole anti-Semite. She was on, what was it, NBC?
She was on Ben Shapiro's show and got kicked out of that. She has her other shows, yeah.
I mean, what would we call her? A presenter? She's not a journalist. She's not a news anchor. It's like, what even word does one have?
A mouthpiece.
She's a mouthpiece.
That's how
I think that's absolutely accurate.
I would say a talking head, but it's like a spewing hatred head.
Yeah, it's a spewing hatred head with a huge, huge following. And she had posted this whole thing, essentially just like denying the Holocaust and like kind of victim blaming the Jews. And it's this whole rhetoric of like, we weaponize anti-Semitism, right? And therefore they're actually just feeding anti-Semitism, and we get accused of playing the victim by people who deny the actual real victimization of Jews, such as the Holocaust. So she had posted something, and I put it on my stories, kind of just highlighting how outrageous it was. And then,
have you ever met her? Do you have any relationship with this woman?
No, never met her. Never met her. And then she DM'd me and accused me again. It was this thing about playing the victim. And then and then we both spoke, I guess separately spoke to the New York Post about it. Because the New York Post wanted to be like, well, what is going on here?
I guess it was an interesting moment that exemplified to a lot of people what's happening. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to disregard it as it's just online, it's just social media. But you basically had someone with hundreds of thousands of followers and viewers direct message you for criticizing them for denying the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, her message was very antagonistic and, almost anti-Semitic.
It was offensive. She even used the word like, you people. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you people are always doing this kind of thing, which is like so crazily offensive. Like, you're coming into my DMs as a Jewish woman. You're shooting off, you're running your mouth about the Holocaust. I'm highlighting that that's problematic, and then you're coming into my DMs being like, you people always do this, you're always playing the victim and all this stuff. It was incredibly offensive. But again, no, I don't know her. And then at the same time, something was going on in the art world that I wasn't aware of, that a friend of mine showed me and was like, you need to see this. And there was an artist who I don't know, who I've never met, who had 16,000 followers or something like this. All, huge following in the art world. Very much her shtick was very much of the kind of anti-racist posts and advocacy. She had changed her bio to read, I am Zoe Buckman's #1 hater. And then she had done a bunch of posts just directly targeting me. She would like screenshot things that I'd posted, and then she would repost them with all this like nasty, accusations, lies, rhetoric about me. One of them, I had posted a conversation between an Israeli and a Palestinian. And it was like this really beautiful moment that these two men had had on stage. And I had I guess I put that on my story being like, more of this is what we need. Anyway, she was like, aha, evil Zoe Buckman.
What was evil about that?
She said something to the effect of, I know Zoe Buckman thinks it's all nuanced over there, but Zoe Buckman is a white colonizer, Zionist, culture vulture, like all of these nasty buzzwords, culture vulture.
I love that. That's going to be the name of the episode.
Perfect.
Culture vulture, Zionist Buckman.
And then there was this one post where I was like, wow, you're very, very, this woman is unhinged. She had written, if Zoe Buckman has 1 million haters, I'm one of them. If she has 1,000 haters, I'm one of them. If she has 100 haters, I'm one of them. If she has one hater, it is me. And if she has 0 haters, it's because I have died and I've continued hating her from, the other realm. Now, all of this stuff, including her bio, violates Instagram's code of conduct. So it was actually really easy, even though she blocked me. I would have had no idea had it not been for this other artist being like, babe, you need to see this. But I was able to let some friends of mine know who simply reported it to Meta. It was taken down because she's targeting, in no uncertain terms, this is harassment and bullying and targeting another user, me. So the account gets taken down. She starts a new one. And guess what? Guess what she puts in her bio?
Zoe Buckman, hater resurrected?
No, because she's learned that that's not, that Meta aren't going to appreciate that. But what she does instead, and talk about playing the victim, that we get accused of playing the victim all the time. She writes, my previous account was taken down because I support Palestine. Excuse me, what? Your previous account was not taken down because you support Palestine. You should be supporting Palestine. You should be supporting countries that need supporting. Your account was taken down because you are racist and were being racist, because you are a bully and were bullying. That's why it was taken down. But what really, really pisses me off in this climate right now is that you've got anti-Semites who attack Jews in this very overtly, obviously racist way. And then if there's ever any consequence, then they say, oh, look, the Zionists are coming after me because I support Palestine. Honey, you're not helping Palestine by doing this shit. You're taking a cause and actually you're working against this cause because you're just using it to kick up more hate and bigotry.
It's a really known tactic amongst extremists, both in the extreme left and the extreme right, of saying, getting in your face and saying, people like you won't let me express myself.
Yeah.
And when you cross the boundaries and then you actually get censored because you were violent, because you're inciting to violence, then you're able to say, see, people like you won't let me express myself.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a catch-22 where they're setting up the game so that you will always lose.
Yeah, absolutely. And how perfect for her and the cause that she's attached herself to, that she now gets to say, oh, it's so unfair. The evil Zionists censored me for my advocacy.
Yeah. So in all of this, you're also raising a teenager.
Yes.
In New York City. Was it like raising a Jewish kid or adolescent right now?
It's hard. I mean, it's tender and it's beautiful, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And we're able to have really, I think, important questions about what it is to be Jewish in this moment, and to have that that pride and that joy, but also being acutely aware of your vulnerability. So again, I wouldn't have it any other way, but it's hard, just having this this fear for your kids' safety navigating the world. Yeah. How are you guys navigating it?
Our kids are young enough that we don't mediate the entire world for them.
Yeah.
My son is 9. He gets to read a newspaper. I think it's called Junior Weekly. It's like, kids' newspaper. So he learns about the world. He knows way more than we thought he does. But we still have a lot of control over the information that he gets.
Yeah.
Your son is 13.
Yeah, 13, yeah.
And they have it much more autonomy in the world.
Yes.
How do you mediate that?
So me and our kids' dad, we don't allow our kids to have social media, and thank God we're aligned there. But also I recognize that there's only so long, these kids are going to grow into young adults. They're going to do absolutely what they want when it comes to social media. And then that's that. I think it's about cultivating a strong sense of pride. And also I really want my kid to be able to have nuanced conversations and to think critically. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to raise a kid that doesn't question the current conflict. I think it's really important because I think that in Jewish families, there's too much of this desire to educate their kids or push their kids into one type of thinking. And then when that kid then gets older and meets friends who challenge that, then they suddenly go, oh my God, I was lied to. Right? Because that's happening on either side of this. So that's something that I'm striving for.
My experience is that the people that are most open for having difficult conversations are the ones that feel most strongly about their beliefs.
Right.
And are confident in their beliefs. People that are afraid to have difficult conversations are afraid that they will hear something that will shake their belief.
Yes.
So you cannot have the nuanced, difficult views and conversations if you don't instill that pride, know who you are. You're Jewish, you're Zionist. At the same time, now that you know who you are, you're open to different things.
Yeah.
And it won't shake your ground.
I think that's absolutely it.
We're running out of time here, which is, I know it's running really quick. Before we end, I do have to do something, and it's partially because the person I love most in the world is my wife. And the thing that my wife loves most in the world is accents, and especially different British accents. And you promised that you would do a few.
I do love your wife.
If you don't know my wife, everyone should watch the episode I did with my wife and love her as much as I do. All right, let's try. Can you say the name of the podcast? Here I Am with Shai Davidai in different British accents.
All right, so
and explain what the accents are.
All right, so a Cockney geezer would be like, "Here I am." All right, bruv, what's going on? Here I am, Shai Davidai. And then a posh Brit would be like, well, here I am. I am here. And then someone from up north would be like, here I am. I'm here. I am Shai Davidai. What else? Scotland, a Scottish person would be like, here I am. I am here. What else? Give me some more.
That's 4 more accents that I know of British accents.
I do love all the British accents. They're pretty good.
All right, Zoe, we're going to end like we do with every episode with the Here I Am lightning round. A series of rapid fire questions. There's no right or wrong answer. Just say the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, Zoe Buckman. What is one thing people don't know about you?
I can't drive. I don't know how to drive.
Yet.
I hate this already.
Yet. What is one thing people don't know about the Jews?
Jewish men have big penises. It's true. Why are you making me do this? You can cut that out. Go.
I'm like, I kind of want to make a joke about the bris or something, but
despite what has been taken from them.
Post-tax. What is your favorite curse?
Cunt.
When was the last time you cried?
Oh, today. This morning. Things are hard.
What happened?
I was sat on the couch and I was actually, this sounds weird, but actually I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about what you're experiencing at work and in the world, and it just really hurt me to think of you being scapegoated for so much ugly shit, and the Jewish people being scapegoated, but you especially, and it made me very upset. And I'm sorry.
I gotta tell you,
I'm with you.
I've cried about that a few times as well. Not today, but yeah. If you could have any Jewish person over for Shabbat dinner from any moment in history, dead or living, who would that be?
You already know. Amy Winehouse. Ovi.
I did not think of Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
Why? The British connection, the Jewish.
I'm her biggest fan. Yeah, I got to meet her a few times as well back in the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she used to come to your cocktail bar?
No, she didn't. But I did. I went to see her play, and we had some time in the bathroom together. I wasn't doing drugs.
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
Especially because you had to say I wasn't doing drugs. It just makes it clear that you were doing drugs. Yeah, you were with Amy Winehouse in the bathroom.
It's true. Yeah. Sharing lipstick.
Yeah. Lipstick. What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
I really like Passover because that's the only one we did growing up. Yeah. What's yours?
My favorite?
Yeah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
Yes,
oh
Rosh
yeah,
Hashanah.
lovely. Fresh start.
First start every year.
Yeah, I like that.
What is your least favorite Jewish holiday?
Yom Kippur sucks a little bit.
When do you feel safest?
I feel safest when I'm with my kid and they come in the morning and wake me up and get into my bed.
Oh.
Yeah.
When do you feel least safe?
I feel least safe when I feel, oh God, that's such a good question. Fuck. I feel least safe right now in spaces with left-wing, far-left activists, and it breaks my heart to say that, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's your natural space.
Yeah.
And you were kicked out.
Exactly.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope right now is the Jewish people's talent. When I really stop and I consider it in all fields, and how it's never slowed down and it's not slowing down. When I see manifestations of our people's talent and like tenacity and generosity, I'm just filled with such hope.
You know what? So this is not a question part of the lightning round, but who are some Jewish artists, creators of any medium, of any sort that you would recommend people to look for and follow?
God, that is a good question. Wait, help me think of some.
Don't put me on the spot. You're the one being interviewed.
Do you mean like online?
Online, in person, in the media, wherever.
Okay. I think that Ari Axelrod is an amazing performer. He's a mutual friend of ours. He
was here on the show before.
Love him. And he has this beautiful one-man show, which is just completely mind-blowing. Daniela Rabbani has like also wonderful podcasts and conversations. She's also incredibly talented. I think I'm a huge fan of like Sarah Silverman and what she does with her activism as well as her acting. I get great hope and confidence knowing that Pamela Adlon exists as an actress and comedian. What else?
That's great.
That right?
That's a good place to start. Finally, every episode I urge the listeners to donate to one charity that does good in Israel, the Jewish diaspora, or the world in general. Where would you want people to donate to this week?
It's actually, it's quite hard. Like, you're going to have to ask me this in a minute, because there's one that I want to say, but then I was told recently that their stance, because it's for women, and then I was told recently that like their stance is very,
Anti-Israel.
Yeah. So wait, give me 1 second. Let me think.
But while you think, I would say it really is unfortunate that charities that are supposed to do really good in the world and have their entire reason of existence being co-opted into something completely unrelated, and not only unrelated, but that it goes against their values.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard for me to see any consistency with a charity that helps women and also supports terrorist organizations that subjugate women.
Exactly. It's completely wild, because it's like, I want to get behind this. I care so deeply about this. I really like Women's Aid, which is a UK charity that does so much for domestic violence there. Yeah.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Zoe Buckman, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram. I have a website, which is my name, which is where my work best exists online.
That's ZoeBuckman.
That's exactly correct. And then my next, I have work in a few different exhibitions. Thank you for shouting those out, by the way. My next solo show is going to be at Mindy Solomon Gallery in December in Miami during Miami Art Basel. And I hope you'll come to that as well.
December 2025 in Miami?
Yes.
Sounds nice.
I'll be 40 and I'll be a Bat Mitzvah by then.
All right. Well, this was a true pleasure. The moment you walked into the studio, there was like a different kind of energy. You lit up the room. And I'm just delighted to say, here I am with Zoe Buckman.
Thank you, truly.